Welcome to Off the Bench, powered by Bench Connect. I'm your host, Ben Steele, and today we sit down with the trade desk to look at the state of programmatic in Asia and what's coming next and what we can expect at the trade desk, and also share some insights on the current situation in Asia coming out of the pandemic. Today, my guest is Hazel Ng, Director of Trading for the trade desk. Welcome to Off the Bench.
Thanks, Ben. Hi, everyone.
Hazel, you've been at the trade desk for 7 years, which is a long time in digital. Give us a bit of an intro to your role at the trade desk.
Yeah, sure. So you're right, 7 years is a really long time, and I guess it's been great so far that I'm still here. So in terms of my role, I oversee a team of traders looking after activities across Southeast Asia. And, for me, my responsibility is really just to make sure that trading operations are smooth, campaign performances are good, and clients are happy using our platform.
So you get to sort of jump around and help out across a number of different projects and clients, and yeah, awesome.
Yeah, and I guess the biggest value add from my end is to help my team escalate or problem solve.
Yeah, excellent. So when you joined the trade desk 7 years ago, you were the 7th employee. How many are in the office now?
I think we're just under 70.
Okay, so that's like 10 times growth.
Yeah.
What's changed over the last 7 years, looking back and then coming through to today? I mean, obviously the company's a lot bigger, but what are the differences between then and now?
Wow, a lot. So maybe I can talk about it from how we managed to grow to this size. So I think in the initial years, we were growing a lot mainly because we were really focused on, we had a really strong client focus. And so clients use us as an extension of their team. We're always around for them, helping them with their campaigns, troubleshooting, and, just helping them to be successful at what they do. And I think in the recent years, having that strong client focus is still one of the main reasons for our growth. But beyond that, clients are actually, advertisers are getting a lot more savvy. So they care about other things such as, objectivity, transparency, openness, scale, and and they want to have greater control over their data, which is what some other platforms may not be able to offer them, and that's where the trade desk comes in.
Yeah, it's definitely, if you look at the different competitors or other tech in market, I think there's definitely been a bit of an opposite trajectory in terms of office sizes. I've worked with a number, when I first came to Singapore in 2015, I've worked with a number of different DSPs. And if I look at the office sizes now, a lot of them have shrunk. And I guess, they say the cream always rises to the top. So congratulations to the whole team. I wanted to ask about multi-DSP strategy because I think it made sense 5-6 years ago to have one DSP. What would you say would be some of the reasons to adding a second DSP? For example, say someone was using only DV360 or only one of the other platforms. Why do you see, or what are some of the advantages of having more than one DSP in your stack? We can see that the agency trading desks have 3, 4, 30 plus different platforms, but main DSPs tends to be at least 3 or 4 of the main players. And I think that makes sense because, obviously you want to test and learn and make decisions based on data. But yeah, what's sort of your insight? Are you seeing more and more people who might have had another DSP adding the trade desk to their stack?
Yeah, so first of all, I think there is that trend of using more than one DSP, and I believe that's because, every DSP has their markets, their own specialization or specialized areas. But at the trade desk, I guess, we have seen some of the common reasons why we have seen clients move over from other platforms to our platform is mainly because of, similar to some of the growth reasons that I mentioned earlier. So, like transparency, wanting greater control over their data, and also scale. I think those come up quite a bit. As we all know, if you run your campaigns in a walled garden, you can't port your data out of it. So as an advertiser, there is a limitation in terms of what you can do with your data outside of those platforms. So advertisers are starting to be a little more concerned over these, and that's where they turn to us. Because at the trade desk, your first party data is yours to own, and you can choose to port it, export it out anytime you wish to for your marketing activities outside of our platform. There is also transparency that greater advertisers are seeking for greater transparency. So, on our platform, whether it's fees, whether it's reporting or optimization, they're all completely transparent. It's not a black box, so you know exactly where you are buying in terms of where you're spending your media dollars. And I guess the last part, and one of the biggest reasons why we see, excuse me, why we see other advertisers come to us is mainly because of scale.
Yeah.
And I think that's because we have a marketplace approach where we work with all major SSPs and publishers, and I think more importantly, we don't own our own inventory, so we don't prioritize in any ways. In fact, we let your campaign performance help direct the buying.
I think that raises a major point. I don't think a lot of people realize that some of the DSPs that are also in the SSP business, their traffic won't optimize to what's working best. It'll optimize potentially towards what they also need to sell for their clients on the supply side. And definitely that's an advantage of not being in the supply side business, is that you have no interest in trying to force people to take the more expensive traffic.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely an advantage.
Yeah, and on top of that, we're also looking for ways to expand our channel offerings. So recently we have launched programmatic digital out of home with some of our key partners like SPH, Clear Channel, and JCDecaux.
So the last 18 months has been a challenge for everyone. I think Singapore now, as we speak, are 80% fully vaccinated and starting to open up. And our colleagues, our close neighbours in Indonesia and Malaysia are coming out of a bigger challenge. So, and not just for the region, but the whole world's had a challenge through the last 18 months. Has there been any insights that you've seen in the last 18 months, or opportunities for advertisers that have opened up purely because of the situation? And can you share anything with us?
Data was definitely one of the hottest topics during the pandemic. And it was mainly propelled by Google's cookie announcement. But at the same time, advertisers also had to start thinking about how they could engage their customers better during COVID and beyond. So some of the common things that we've been hearing during this period is actually most of it that we have heard is mainly around advertisers' first-party data. How do they manage it? How do they utilize it? So from the questions that we are getting from them, we can tell that advertisers are thinking about long-term strategies for their first-party data. And they're not just thinking about it for today's campaign, which kind of makes sense because with UID, with the emergence of UID 2.0, it becomes even more important for them to start planning ahead on how they intend to manage and use their first-party data to future-proof their marketing activities.
So we talk about test and learn and making data-driven decisions. I think something that gets thrown around a lot more than what actually many in the industry are doing. Have you seen the current situation over the last 18 months push advertisers to want to test new things and start to understand, hey, what new DSPs or what new media have we bought or what new channels have we bought? Is this something that's accelerated by the pandemic, or have you sort of seen brands and advertisers pulling back, saying, hey, look, let's just focus on what we know works without testing anything new? We're sort of in this emerging phase of digital out of home becoming more popular, digital audio, programmatic audio becoming more popular. Have you seen a trend to moving back towards what people know best, or are people becoming more exploratory on what else they can get in programmatic?
Yeah. So just in general, I would say the desire for innovation is definitely there. And wanting to test something new is definitely there for any organizations. But the risk appetite varies. So for the larger organizations, at the end of the day, it's still the performance, the overall sales performance is still number one for them. So for them, it's more of keeping performance consistent and also looking for cost efficiency opportunities. For the smaller advertisers, I think they're the ones with a bigger risk appetite. And sometimes the people that we speak to are also the decision makers as well. So they know the risk and they are willing to give it a try, because to them it's really more of testing, learning, and insights more than performance.
Yeah, and I think like I started my I guess advertising focused career in 2010. I worked in radio, and we used to lose campaigns all the time to digital. But radio, and this is just like traditional radio, is so complicated because you have to pay for everyone who's listening, but you might only be targeting men who are of a certain age bracket. So you have to try and pick the show or the channel or whatever and try and target. And in order to really get radio working, you need to be committed for 6 to 12 months. You needed big budgets, and I think now, same thing with digital out of home. You needed to or out of home. You had to book big budgets. You had to be committed. Now you can run digital out of home, very targeted, using data, making really smart decisions, running time-targeted creative or spots. Same thing with audio. You can target the exact audience you want. You don't have to pay for the whole radio station. So I think the exciting part about as programmatic's evolving, especially across these new channels, is the smaller advertisers who didn't have or didn't succeed when they threw everything they could at these traditional mediums can now actually come back and do it properly and still have that impression on the audience that they want, that they're advertising a lot, without having to have those huge budgets thrown. You know, when we turn on the radio and you listen, the people advertising are the same major brands, right? And the same repetitive ads that just come blasting at you. And if you've got those big budgets, it's great. But if you don't, I think programmatic's opened up a huge amount of opportunity for advertisers to get back into audio and back into out of home, digital out of home.
Yeah, that's such a good point, right? Because programmatic has made this an opportunity for every advertiser, not just the big ones. And that with the equal opportunity, I think we would hear lesser of the ads that we keep hearing on radio. There's more diversity and more innovation for as well, since there are more competitors on the in the radio space.
When we talk about digital transformation, I think the first part of it is owning your data, which we talked about as being, incredibly hot topic for the last 18 months. But in order to do that properly, you really need to own your own ad account if you have the budget and the team to do so. So are we still seeing brands moving towards in-housing, or at least semi-in-housing, by setting up their own ad accounts directly with you? Is this a trend that's still coming forward? Are brands still wanting to, maybe they still work with an agency for different channels, but they might want to own those ad accounts?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting question, and we've definitely been seeing more requests coming in from brands to get their own logins into the trade desk. And I think there are some good reasons for that, because there is a growing interest in wanting to learn more about programmatic, and just understanding how programmatic media buying actually looks like, or what the trade desk platform looks like visually. But I think for them, it's about being able to get the real-time access to data, or being able to see their performance whenever they need it. So it's really for the visibility, to have increased visibility into the campaigns that they're running. In terms of moving completely in-house, I don't think that is something that, I think it's still being considered, but that's not the trend that we're seeing recently, because, we all know that it is very challenging, and there are parts, for example, like planning and execution, that are super hard to replace. So that's where your media agency still plays a very big role in terms of, helping you with that.
Looking at the newer programmatic channels like programmatic TV, digital out of home, which we're discussing, audio, in Southeast Asia, maybe we can run through them one by one, but which are the countries that tend to be moving quicker? Are some markets moving quicker on some of these channels in terms of what inventory is becoming available? I'm assuming it's kind of getting supercharged by the pandemic because everybody's working from home.
I think in general, I mean, it varies across all the different channels that we mentioned, but I guess broadly, Indonesia and Thailand seem to be moving very, very fast in terms of the readiness for programmatic, and they are more receptive to it. In terms of programmatic digital out of home, Singapore is definitely most ready for that, just because from an infrastructure perspective, and then followed by, I would say maybe Indonesia and Thailand. Yeah, two of them. And then in terms of connected TV, Vietnam has been way ahead of the others. In fact, I think we first ran our we ran our first CTV campaign from Vietnam maybe about 3 years back. So, and a lot of people are just starting right now. So they have been way ahead of others in terms of connected TV. So Vietnam is definitely number one in terms of opportunity. And then there is also, it's followed by, I guess, followed quite closely by Indonesia and Thailand as well.
We don't have 3 hours, but I wanted to touch on trying to understand a bit more about UID too. We talk about cookieless future, and that requires new solutions. The Trade Desk has come up with UID2. Can you touch on a little bit about perhaps what is UID2? And maybe you could just run us through, explain to someone who perhaps is new to understanding what it is. It's a solution for a cookieless future. And it's been open sourced by the Trade Desk, which means you've started it, you've built it, and now you're sharing it so that everyone can get involved in the project, which I like. It means that it's not going to be an owned solution by bigger players. It means that everyone can contribute. But what is UID2?
Yeah, so UID2 is a movement for better internet. Really just one that helps to unify all the marketing activities for advertisers and also help them to find customers more seamlessly online. So the concept of UID is really that every user online has a common identifier, and using this common identifier, we then will be able to identify their movements across channels and devices, which we previously had limitations in doing so. And this solves for a lot of industry challenges, long-standing industry challenges such as frequency management, attribution, and also even audience targeting. So from a user perspective, right, UID actually is going to make your whole omni-channel experience much better, because as you move across devices from your CTV to your mobile phone, you will not be, the vision is you will not be able to, you won't be flashed the same ad multiple times.
Yeah,
and,
if someone's frequency capped you,
exactly.
that'll work it better. So it's going to help you to see more of the most relevant ads.
Exactly. And also in terms of relevancy, is going to be a lot better than before, just because with the common identifier, we are able to understand your browsing behaviors better.
Yeah, when we talk about first-party data, I feel like it's Groundhog Day, because I think like for the last decade, we've talked about how important first-party data is. It's just what that data is now has kind of moved forward a long way. So I still think first-party data is important in terms of targeting. I think how recent the data is and where it comes from. If you're using data to target and you're doing it by occupation, I hope that data doesn't come from a dating site, because I think a few guys might be doctors that aren't actually doctors, for example. So it's really important to know where the data's come from, how recent it is, and be able to have more options rather than less, right? So the more data you can optimize on, the more you can make decisions from, which sort of leads me into the next question, which was looking at what's next for the Trade Desk. And maybe I thought we can get a bit more excited about what's coming, and perhaps it's not coming, it's here. You guys have just launched Solimar, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, the latest name of the Trade Desk software, right? So it's like Solimar is the Trade Desk, but the latest version of features and tools.
Yeah, exactly. So Solimar is the latest version of our UI. It's our revamped platform. So it's a revamped platform for us to be able to support the future of media buying, and also to empower advertisers to make highly data-driven decisions based on their marketing objectives and goals. So
it's going to remain the Trade Desk, right?
Yeah.
Everybody changes names all the time. I'm one for keeping everything the same, but I understand the concept of having a name.
Yeah.
But I feel like everybody changes name every 3 years. You've got to come up with something new. As long as you remain the Trade Desk and Solimar remains the operator, and I'm sure it will get upgraded in the future and perhaps change names again. Is that the sort of the plan to have like a name for each release as it moves forward, or?
Yeah, so far it's been happening this way. So in the previous release, it was called Megagon.
Okay.
And then this time around is Solimar.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I hope someone else has learned something today as well.
And also, I guess maybe a bit on Solimar, right? It's really easy, and it's meant to be really easy and intuitive. So we start off with an advertiser. An advertiser can just start off with putting in their marketing objectives and up to 3 different goals. and there'll be a guided wizard that takes you throughout the setup process. And in this setup process, there'll be some data-driven suggestions given to you to help you basically set up for success. And the most exciting thing about Solima is that, it's built to support UID 2.0. So what this means is you can actually upload your CRM data, your emails your customers' emails directly into the platform, and that will turn it into UID to use as your valuable first-party audiences on the trade desk. So that's really exciting.
Thank you very much for joining us today, and thanks for Trade Desk for letting you have a bit of time off to come over and interview with us. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much, Ben. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for another episode of Off the Bench coming soon.
The advertising world is changing rapidly, which means new expectations, new goals, and a lot of reporting. It is increasingly difficult for marketing teams to navigate this change, and agencies are expected to keep track. So, how do we simplify all of this? Meet Bench Connect, a marketing intelligence software designed for today's media team. With over 6 years of data across thousands of campaigns, it is the secret weapon for managing and scaling up your digital media operation. First, select the ad platforms you work with, and Bench will automatically process the data ready for actioning. Next, build your team. You can set up roles and permissions for various people in your teams, including trader, marketing manager, data analyst, senior management, or your creative agency. Using our intuitive workflow, you can now start managing campaigns. Brief your traders or agency. Plan goals and budgets. Define your mix of channels and platforms. Easily upload ads. Done. Thanks to the hyper-automation built into our no-code user interface, all the data seamlessly flows back into the platform, giving you full control and transparency. Brands and agencies all over the world are choosing Bench Connect as their centralized platform for marketing intelligence and management. So, it's time to connect.